Sound check, and we're going live. I hope you can hear me well, you can see me well also, and this is an excitement time for me because this is the grand opening of our new, absolutely new community, new event. This is our first attempt to create a community around this real great, real necessary, real famous languages like C# and .NET. And here we are. I welcome you here at C#.NET Global Summit by Geekle 2023. I'm so excited. We are all here. We get together, and let's get it started. I see here with me and want to introduce you guys, my team, Paul here and Sia. Paul is my colleague. He works with partnership and helps us with the agenda and all this program a lot. And Sia, she's a center of this community. She gathered all these speakers, topics, all this agenda and everything. So she's the queen of this stream, and she has everything in her hands. Happy to see you here, fellows. And yeah, I made myself smaller. Hello, how are you? What do you feel, Paul?
Happy to see everyone doing great and great. Excited to add another great community to our network, and we're happy that we are expanding our let's say backend and architectural topics and stack because we have lots of front end development. Things around JS and React and Angular and Vue and lots of other stuff. So we're excited. We're gonna have some hardcore coders with us now, and yeah, we're excited to have everyone with us, and
Cool.
we will have some great benefits for the community for those who joined us today. So stay tuned for some exciting promos, and yeah, welcome everyone.
Sure. Sia, a few words from you. What do you feel? What are you expecting from this day? How are you?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm doing great. I'm beyond excited to actually start the life of this new community in our company, and it's a great honor. It's a great honor to start cooperating with you guys. I appreciate all the impact done by the speakers and program committee members. So yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. Hope this event will be really valuable for you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your words and your smile. You light up this stream for sure. And we have lots of people from everywhere. Actually, this event gathered almost 400 people in registrations, and I'm happy to have that many people on our first event. That's great, actually. And yeah, just let us know where you are now, what country, city. As always, that's our tradition. I'm in France, and Paul in Ukraine, and see in Ukraine also. And this is actually project created by Ukrainian team. Yeah, just let us know, give us some, I don't know, smiles, shakes, and of what do you feel, what you're expecting for. Not too many people on the backstage. I mean, watching this stream right now. That's what we thought actually, because it's just the start of September. Lots of people having this back to school issues and back to work and all these team calls and setup calls, meetings, stand-ups and everything. So yeah, but lots of people and most of people actually watch this content in recordings. By the way, recordings will be available about a week later after we finish this event. So yes. What was so interesting here, Paul? I see you have something to tell us.
Yeah, I have something to tell everyone. I just received an update from our tech team, and Yura said that we have already more than 50 people. So people keep adding because, like, the counter that you see, that's on the YouTube and not the Vimeo. So we already have more than 50 people with us, and also important thing. So for everyone who already joined us, we would be super thankful for you if you would actively participate in our Q&A session, because we will have Q&A sessions. So please write your questions because we will have speakers who are willing to actually to answer questions. And yeah, so we will have two speakers for the Q&A. So yeah, write your questions, and let's stay active.
Yeah, it's absolutely great when you're giving a talk, when people ask something even not related to this talk, like just about yourself or something general, but it's really encouraging for speaker always. So please do share your thoughts and your energy with speakers. Um, Yeah, and what we have here on geographics, it's Portugal. I see, hey, and Philippines. Hello, and Spain, we're neighbors. And Cote d'Ivoire. Oh, yeah, hello, and Croatia. And I see India here, and I see, yeah, lots of people, more and more coming. Thank you for joining us here,
In
and
Costa Rica. I see Juan
Costa
Delgado
Rica.
from Costa Rica. Hi, Juan.
Yeah, hey people. Yeah, we have some minutes to warm up, to give some space to our tech team to prepare. And what can I say? 8 speakers. Actually, we have this summit with 8 topics. We've been working for like a few months to gather this like new community, new speakers, and more content and more events on these topics are coming up. And today, I actually think these like topics are really interesting because it's multiple authentication, and AspNet, which is the first speaker, is presenting is super interesting. UI testing and the .NET using Selenium, nice also. Of course, microservices as always. I don't know when we will like we will not I'm not sure which event can run without this topic, which is actually mainstream, and we need to um, disclosure it and talk about that. Yeah, and also asynchronous C# cancellation tokens. It's really deep. How to develop parsers in C# and use them in practice. That would be a really interesting topic to listen from the guy from Ukraine. And yeah, that's what is coming up today with us. And 3 blocks actually. First one is also broadcasted for free on YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube and want to keep watch and get all these recordings, you after the first block and Q&A session, you could buy. We also have this, promo codes for purchases of today. Just buy this ticket and join us for the full event. And of course, certificates. If you have paid tickets, you will have it after our stream, and they will come to your. They will be sent to your email, and most of recordings will be available at the end of the week. I guess we need to share about some upcoming events or something. Paul?
Yeah, so another thing that I wanted to mention, that we are having this month also 2 cool events. One is Go, and the other one is JavaScript. So you can have you can get yourself some free tickets for junior participation if you're just learning, because this is what we do at Geekle. So if you're a newbie, if you're just starting, we think you can learn for free. So just join us and have fun. And if you're a seasoned developer and you're already making some bucks or shekels or whatever, or rupees, join us. Join for the paid track. And for you, we will have today special promo codes. So we have the special promo codes right here on our screens. So you can use the promo code. It's CSharp Live. So it will give you minus 20%. So pretty cool bonus, pretty cool discount. And we will have those links in the chat, so you can use this this link to join this event, and use this promo code and use the benefit of joining our C# event. I think you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah. And right now we saw this promo code for the C#, and probably we need to see for JavaScript. And Sia, tell us more about this event. How is organized? I mean, blogs, Q&As, and everything. How you cooked it up?
Yes, so the agenda is full with amazing speakers from various companies, various industries. We will have a different point of views on some questions, and we have 3 blocks. First block will have 2 speakers and 1 Q&A session. So don't miss the chance to ask the question and have a great answer from our speakers. They will be present live as well. And next 2 blocks will have 3 speakers each and 2 more Q&A sessions coming. So yeah, there will be a lot of discussions, a lot of valuable information. So don't miss a chance to get some insights.
Yeah, insights. That's why we actually do this, because we are at Geekle, we're gathering insights and some coding sessions and know-hows, innovations, pack them in these events and bring all together to you to get insights, actually. Yeah, and greetings from Tunisia. Hello from Turkey, Herzegovina, Portugal again. Uruguay. Hey, people, lovely. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know that you are here. And I believe like no more talks, or we need to mention something else. I'm not sure. So yeah, should we go to like directly to our talks, or we need to mention anything else?
No, I guess we can start the conference with announcement of our first speaker.
Oh, great. And probably I'll do that if you don't mind, okay?
Of course.
Yeah,
The stage is yours.
sure. Stage is mine, yeah. Yeah, our first speaker um, will be presenting in like, I'm not sure, a few minutes. We will have Saeed Esmaeelinejad with us, and he will be presenting handling multiple authentication schemes in ASP.NET. The guy is engineer with 8+ years of experience, so I believe he knows what he's doing, and he's actually really qualified, as I see on his track records, to share some interesting insights with us. He works for 7 Big Software, and we actually are waiting for the start of this talk, because I think it's the great idea to start these talks from this conference from this talk. So we need like 1 or 2 minutes to launch it, and let's wait. Let's wait. And I wish you all like great conference, deep insights and changes in your daily development and your careers. Okay, let's wait and listen. Okay.
Hello everyone, welcome to CSharp Summit 2023. I hope you all are doing well, and today we are going to talk about ASP.NET authentication and see how we can handle multiple authentication scheme. I am Saeed Esmaeelinejad, Senior Software Engineer at 7 Big Software. I mostly create some posts on LinkedIn. So if you like the LinkedIn post, you can check my profile as well. Here is the agenda for the presentation. We'll start with core concepts about the ASP.NET authentication and present the scenario for the sample project. In this project, I try to cover all of the scenarios for having multiple authentication scheme. After we start with adding the first one step by step for adding all of this authentication scheme, and also check the code and checking how it works in the ASP.NET. Okay, moving on. Authentication. When we say authentication, what it means? Authentication is the process of determining a user's identity. Authentication is responsible for providing the claims and pass these claims to the authorization for making decision. That's it. Authentication is only responsible for validating token, nothing more. So it will check the token, is it valid or not, expired or not, for example, has the valid issuer or not. In case of any issues, it will raise the 401, unauthorized. Maybe unauthorized is not a good convention here. Maybe it was better to have the unauthenticated, but yeah, this is the standard and this is what we have. What is the authorization? On the other hand, authorization is the process of determining whether the current user has access to current API or not. So it's all about that. It checks if the user has all of the requirement for accessing to this API. If it has, okay, it allows user to go. But if there is any issues with the user permission, it raised the 403, means forbidden. Please check your permission. Okay, so this is all about the authentication and authorization. Let's go for the authentication scheme, which is the main reason for having this presentation. When we say we want to validate the token, so ASP.NET says, okay, how can I do that? We need to implement some authentication handler. There is an interface called authentication handler. So everyone wants to validate the token. It has to be implemented this interface. Okay, so there is some authentication handler, and also there is some configurations. When we say, okay, we have the handler and we want to validate the token, but how? For example, if we want to validate the Azure B2C or Azure Active Directory token, so we need to specify, for example, the valid issuer. What is the valid issuer for this token? What is the valid audience for this token? So this is all about the configuration. Authentication scheme contains two parts. One is having an authentication handler and some configuration to validate token. It's all about this validating token and pair of the authentication handler and configuration called schemes. Okay, so authentication schemes means having one handler and some configuration. Okay, moving on. Here is the scenario for the sample project. Authentication and authorization, when we add the authentication and authorization to the ASP.NET dependency injection, it will add two middlewares. So this is how they work. They are just the middleware. When we add these middlewares into the ASP.NET pipeline, when one request comes to our ASP.NET pipeline, request first goes to the authentication. The authentication checks everything about the token and get the claims. If it's okay, if not, return the 401 to the user. And if it's okay, prepare that claims and allow request to go for the next middleware, which is the authorization. And authorization checks the claims here. If it's okay, it allows user to go to the API. Okay, so here we have three kind of tokens. One token comes from the identity server A. You can call it, for example, Azure AD. Second one comes from the Azure identity. So for validating the JWT tokens, there is another extension method called add JWT bearer, which is the one extension. And by this one, we can add the authentication schemes for identity server A. Okay, so here is the configuration for the identity server A. We set the valid audience, we set valid issuers, and also signing keys, which should not be here, of course. And yeah, when we say add JWT bearer, it means the token must be in JWT format, contains header, payload, signature. Otherwise, it will not and cannot actually check the token. Okay, so here behind the scenes, this add JWT bearer will add the built-in authentication handler for checking the token, the JWT token. So if you remember, we say authentication scheme has two parts. One, authentication handler, and another one is configuration for validating that token. So here is we set the configuration for token validation parameters. And behind the scenes, this one will add the authentication handler. So we have authentication scheme here. Okay, so this is the first authentication scheme. Let's go for the second one. Because the identity server B is exactly the JWT token, so we can use the same way for adding this one to the dependency injection. So we are using the add JWT bearer extension and passing some configuration for the identity server B, audience and issuer. But here we need to specify the name. Why we didn't specify the name for the first one, for identity server A? Based on the document, Microsoft says if you don't specify the name for the add JWT bearer, it will use the default one. So because we set the default authenticate scheme here, and here is the default authenticate scheme, the name, it means this is the default value, default authentication for the authenticating the identity server A. But here we need to specify the name. So every authentication scheme needs to have a unique name. Otherwise, ASP.NET raised an exception that there is some duplication. Authentication scheme, I cannot decide which one I need to go. So yeah, so we put this name for the second one, and the same is the rest is the same. We put the configuration here as well. So let's go for the last one. So the third one was custom token. Custom token is not JWT, so that we cannot use this extension method, add JWT bearer. So this JWT bearer, actually it helps us to put the configuration easily without implementing the authentication handler. But because we have the custom token, we need to implement that. So as I mentioned, there is the interface called authentication handler. If we want to implement our own handler, we need to implement that interface. So here, the custom authentication handler inherits from the authentication handler. There is the abstract class that is implement that interface, but we need to override this method. Actually, this method is called by ASP.NET Runtime when it wants to validate the token. So we put all of the logics, our logic, here for validating the custom token. Here is, I put some simple logic. I get the token from the headers and check the token against the database. If not exists, through 401. If it exists, yeah. And you can see this is the very simple one. And also for the authentication handler, there is some properties in the constructor, which is using by the ASP.NET. I think we can just leave them alone there. We don't need them. If we want to add another one, for example, here I inject the token repository, so we can use the DI for resolving other services that we need for our logic. Okay, so here is all the code for the custom authentication handler. Let's move on. So here is all of this three authentication scheme that we already implemented. And yeah, you can see add JWT bearer for the first one, server A, server B, and add a scheme for the custom handler. Why we use this one? So actually, behind the scenes, this add JWT bearer will use the add scheme for registering that built-in handler that I mentioned. It will use the built-in authentication handler. But because we have our own handler, we need to use this method directly. So yeah, this is the case. Another point that I think I missed here, this is another option, custom scheme options that I implement here. If you remember, authentication scheme has two parts. One, handler, second one, options, the configuration. So here we have the custom authentication handler, and here we have these options. But because we don't have any specific properties, we just inherit from the default one. Okay, so we add this the third one as well and put the name for the called custom token, and we have three authentication scheme. But let's see, does it work or not? Let's check it in the code. Okay, I prepared some very basic project based on the default template of the Web API ASP. So here I set this configuration that we already talked about them. So yeah, nothing special here, and you can see this is the exact code that we had. Okay, let's run the project. I already prepared three API. Server A, which should be validated by the identity server A, server B for the identity server B, and then custom for the custom token. Okay. Okay, it's not run yet. Waiting for the API. Okay, it's run. So yeah, here I use the Postman for calling API. Already I create some token based on the server A and the identity server B. So here this token is for the identity server A. Okay, let's call it. Okay, nice. It returned 200. Everything okay because this token is the valid one. How about this one is the API server A, this one is server B. Let's call it. Oh, it returned 401. Interesting. let's test the custom token. And as I said, the custom token can be not the JWT, can be anything, just a unique value that we generated. Okay, and I put something unique value here. And if I call that one again, it raised 401. Why? I know that this token is a valid token for the identity server B. But why our API returned the 401? And also this custom token is a valid one. Let's see. The problem is when we say, the problem is this line, actually. We say, okay, default authenticate scheme is JWT bearer default dot authentication scheme. This is some constant values, which is its bearer, the value. But it means by default, all of the request goes to this authentication scheme, the name. Okay, but what's the problem here? The problem here, because we didn't put any name for the identity server A, it will use the same name as this one. As I comment here, it will use this one. So all of the requests will go here, which is not correct. Okay, for this reason, the identity server A is working because the, okay, I stopped the app. And the rest, the second one and third one doesn't work because the token is checked by only the identity server A. Okay, what we can do, there is two options for us. First one, here in the authorize attribute, there is a property called authentication schemes. Here we can set some authentication names, can be multiple. So for example, we set this name here, and also can put the custom token for our custom tokens here. So we set explicitly here and telling the ASP.NET, please use this authenticator scheme for authenticating this API. Okay, let's run the app. Okay. So here again, we try to test all of the APIs based on the new configuration. Okay, it will run. And for API A, the server A actually, okay, it's returning the OK as before. For B, let's see. Nice. It returned OK. Why? Because we say please use this scheme for checking the tokens that come from the identity server B. Okay, let's check the custom token as well. Okay, here I put the breakpoint. As you can see, this request comes to our custom handler. Let's go on. Okay, and this one return okay. So far so good. But it's working. You can set this configuration here, and for each one, it will use the specific authentication scheme. But somehow it's annoying, can be annoying in case of you have a lot of APIs. For example, you have 100 API. Always you need to set the specific scheme for the API, which is not good, I think. Always you need to keep in mind, okay, for that one, I need to specify this one. Maintenance is nightmare for this project. But what is the other option? The better solution is, I already prepared another one. Let's check this one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there is another extension method called policy scheme. Policy scheme is exactly for this case, for having multiple authentication scheme. So what is the purpose here? The purpose is based on the incoming request, we need to decide which authentication scheme should use to validate this token. Okay, first, again, we have this two line here, set the default authentication scheme and put this name, but we put the default one for policy scheme. So the previous solution, the problem was because this identity server A has the same name with this one, always it goes to, all the requests goes to the identity server A. But here we set the default name for policy scheme. When I say default name, it can be anything. I don't know, can be anything. And you can set this name here as well. I mean, it's not mandatory to use these constant value. Can be anything, but just I use this value in here. Okay, so I use the default name for the policy scheme, and it means all of the requests first will go to this policy scheme first, and then this policy will decide which authenticate scheme should use for validating. So I use very simple logic here. You can implement your own based on your requirements. So here we need to separate the tokens, the request, based on the JWT token. If the token is in the JWT token format, it means we have two options, identity server A or B. Otherwise, if it's not the JWT token, we just say, okay, go to the custom token. In case of the token is JWT, we can use this checking for the issuer. I use this one, it's okay, it works. I check the issuer from the token. If issuer is equal with the identity server A, it goes to the server A, otherwise B. Okay, the rest of the code is the same, nothing changed. Let's run the application. Okay, here we already removed all of those authentication scheme. We just put the authorized attribute, and okay, it works. Identity server B, it works for custom token. Okay, again, hit this breakpoint, and yeah. So as you can see, we have 3 authentication scheme here. We could implement this add policy name for deciding, choosing the right authentication scheme based on the incoming token. So in this case, we can have multiple authentication scheme in our ASP.NET project. This is all the scenarios that maybe we face in the projects. We can use this one. I try to put this code in my GitHub. You can access to it, check the code, run by yourself. And yeah, that's was my presentation. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope I see you all in next event. Thank you. Bye.
I like this talk actually. That was great talk actually. Great prepared and lots of technical details. And now we are really good at the multiple authentication processes. Thank you very much. And I'm happy actually to have this really beneficial talk on our as our first talk. Yeah, I just remind you that your questions to speaker you can write in chat and in the questions section, and we have some questions already arrived. And now I think we'll move to the next speaker, and it's my honor and pleasure to introduce here Yurii Naurynskyi from Uklon. Uklon is like Ukrainian Uber, or even some days I remember they were even more powerful service than Uber. I believe they even were like before the Uber came to Ukraine. So yeah, and he's going to present how to develop parsers in CSharp and use them in practice. Uklon case of parsing conditional restriction tags in OSM. And Yurii has more than 8 years of experience with .NET technologies. After testing webinars for CSharp developers and training, etc. And yeah, I think it's gonna be something really interesting. And his position at Uklon is technical lead, so the guy is on the front line of what happens there. Once again, I know this service and I use them a lot, and I really enjoy it and all my family. Anyway,
everybody. Today we will talk about interesting yet quite complex topic. How to develop parsers in C# and use them in practice, especially Uklon case of parsing conditional restrictions tags in OSM. Who am I? I'm Yurii Naurynskyi, technical lead at Uklon, which is responsible for map service team. But what is Uklon? Uklon is UA product IT company that develops a leading ride-hailing service. We have almost a dozen innovative products based on microservice architecture and has recently expanded into new markets. So let's begin. And what are we talking about? We'll talk about what is parser combinators. We will compare parser combinators with regular expressions and full-fledged self-written parsers. We will talk about what is conditional restrictions tags into OSM and their complexity, why these tags, why we choose the parser combinators for these tags, so how to use parser combinators, how to evaluate restriction, and the summary. So let's start. We have OSM. This is cartographic database. What is interesting about OSM is that Information about objects inside OSM is stored by using tags, simple key-value pairs. But for building rows, we must know when row segment is closed or open. This is what must we parse. This is our task for the next 30 minutes. So what's next? The next is conditional restrictions. This is tags which specifies restrictions dependent on condition, as you can see. Conditions are, for example, time, vehicle type, weather, something else. For example, we have Parkova Road here in Kiev. Parkova Road is always open on holidays, yet it is closed from Monday to Friday from this time to this time, as you can see on slide. So we need to parse this value. So what should we do? We should parse it, and we must answer the question: is road closed or open at the specified time interval? So our task divides by two parts: parse, then evaluate, and then we get the final result. But how? How can we do this? Actually, conditional restrictions tags have a specific syntax. The example you can see here, and you can see it's not very difficult at all. But what do we exactly parse, and why it would be difficult? Everything is much harder because element condition is specified by a big and huge specification specified inside a wiki OpenStreetMap.org, and this is only the beginning, because as we can see from comments from original specification also, the grammar is informal, we can have comments, and also actually it can be evaluated sufficiently simple, and covers all values I found. It means that we must be prepared that not all values we can cover. We expect that these values are growing and growing and growing. So why this is complex? This is complex because of the informality of specification, because this is only a set of recommendations despite this complex syntax tree on Wiki's page. And we need to be prepared for parsing every possible tag values. We need to be agile to add new possible tag values. We just cannot list them and that's all. No, we need to add them dynamically. So just take a look what can be there. It's a mess. We must be prepared for this mess. At least we must not fail. So, how to parse conditional tags? Let's start from the task. We have a string which must be transformed into structured data. So, what should we do and how? The answer is pretty simple. We must use parser. It is a special function which takes string as an input and returns structured data as an output. What's next? We have multiple parsers. Each parser is responsible for his own part of the job. The question is how to combine them, how to get only one parser and therefore the only one result structure. Parser combinators is the answer. This is also a function, someone may call it higher order function, which takes multiple parsers as input and returns parsers as output. Quite simple. So, but why must we use parser combinators? Because it gives us flexibility. We can build any possible combinations of parsers. For example, like this. So they form a tree. Building approach is quite simple. From down to top, we build the parser the most specified, then combine them, And in the end, we will have parser which parses which parsers the exact value that we need, but which consist of parsers that do less job than the top one. So how can we use this? Actually, this is we can use it as the parser, as it all. So if we have parser, we actually need not to know this is parser or parser combinator hides behind it. So we can just provide the string to input and have the structured data as output. And that's all. And we don't care. We have one parser, multiple parsers, or big complex tree of parsers combined. We don't care. So parser combinators is just a simple technique of creating complex parsers by using combination of simple parsers. This is very, very good for us because we have profit from two advantages of parser combinators: agility and composability. Agility gives us that we can parse almost everything that we can have as everyday tasks. So because we can build every possible complex parser using every possible simple parser. Composability gives us the ability to share our parsers and use others' parsers. So use parsers from maybe other people, and we can share our parsers with other people. That's not bad. So the task is quite simple. We need to create our parser using parser combinators. Okay, but what's next? Somebody will ask, how about regular expressions? I will answer. Actually, no. But why yes and why no? Yes, yes has obvious reasons. Yes, first, everyone knows them by default has support from CSharp, and maybe theoretically it's possible to parse all conditional restrictions text values by using regular expressions, but I actually would not recommend. Why not? Because combining composability of regular expressions is a nightmare. It's also impossible to find various error, and it's hard to add new possible values to parse. Also, the small point is that most advanced parser of conditional restrictions text is self-written. Here's the example. It is self-written on JavaScript, yet it's not very important. Self-written parser, you would say. Okay, let's do self-written parser. Actually, it's hard and we have no formal specification. And actually, this is not our job. We just need to be agile. We need to have composability, and also we need to have a minimum amount of job, which is not very fits with self-written parsers. So our choice is parser combinators. This is a balance between complexity, agility, development speed, and possibility of user support. We are using Pidgin library, which is written on CSharp language. Why this library? Because also promises us that this library is lightweight, fast, and flexible. But actually, the basic principles are absolutely the same across all the parser combinators libraries, so you can choose whichever library you want. So let's start our practice. Let's take this expression as an example. Actually, this is simple expression, and the rules are all simple. Expression is evaluated from left to right. Each rule is separated by semicolon, as you see, and each rule overrides previous. What does it mean? It means that we can build a syntax tree for this rule. We have time domain. We have, for example, April, June, and August rule with time specified. Then we have the next rule, Monday or Wednesday and Friday. This is the second rule, and the third rule is public holidays with the time domain. So here I have specified the syntax only for the first rule, because for the second and the third they will be the same. For example, here we have normal rule, then we have sequence April, June to August, December, and then we have April, range, June is the start and August is the end, and then we have December. So the same range is for the time from 10 o'clock to 15 o'clock. The same is applied to second and third rule. So what's next? Next, we need to parse it. And we will start from the basic parser, from down to top approach. So we will start from parsing time. We have two-digit number parser, and it is parsing actually hour and minute. What we have here? We have, as you can see, monadic behavior. We are parsing hour and first, then delimiter, which is colon, then minute, then check when time is valid, and then just return a tuple of hour and minute. So this is quite simple. So the monadic behavior means that if we fail on parsing hour, for example, or delimiter or minute, we just won't go next. We will just fail, and that's all. No need to parse delimiter if we are failing on parsing hour. And it's no need to parse minute if we fail on parsing delimiter and hour. You get it. So two-digit number parser is also quite simple. We have parser from pidgin, which parses digit, one digit. Many string means that we parse a lot of digits, and these digits are converted to string. Then we just concat them, then choose the strings where the length is 2, and then use the CSharp's function int.parse. That's all. As you can see, this is not very hard. So the next is parsing week, days, and holidays. Parsing public holidays, PH, is only just parse this string, PH, these two letters, and that's all. Weekday parses the same as time. Letter many string, not a digit, now it is letter. So select weekdays, try get day of week. It means that we map it to weekday. Then we check the result of the mapping, where maybe day of week is some. And then we create selector with the value of the mapping. That's all. Parsing months is almost the same. We just check if this is actually a short name of the month, then create the selector, and that's all. Nothing too complex here. Parsing ranges is quite interesting. And here we can see the parser combinators example. So create range parser. From start, then we are parsing delimiter, then we are parsing end, then we check if range is valid, and at the end we create range. So we have a lot of generics here. And here we can see the full power of parser combinators. Because of this generics and this function, we can parse any range here. You can parse range of months, or times, or weekdays, or everything we can imagine. It doesn't matter. We just need to know that range has start, that range has delimiter, and has end. That's all. Parsing sequences is also an example of parser combinators. So the sequence is quite interesting to parse, because how can we define that we have a sequence? Actually, very easy, and I took it from functional programming. The sequence has first element and has the rest elements. As you can see, first is item parser before delimiter and before skip white spaces. It just means white spaces. And rest, we have a lot of items separated by delimiter. And then we can just create sequence from rest. Rest has type of IEnumerable, and we prepend first to this IEnumerable. And that's all. And then we just don't have enough time to write the whole parser. But I hope you understood the principle how to build them. Just go from down to top and start from the most simple task, from the most simple value to parse, and then combine them. Combine them using these parser combinators. Parsing rules. So actually, rules are separated by semicolon, but that's not always, but we don't care. Let's separate them by only semicolon. Try is interesting thing here. What is it about? Actually, if we fails on our parsing, that's all. We fail all the chain of parsers. But try prevents it. So if we fail, the next parser will simply parse the expression from the beginning. So for example, if we failed on open rule parser, then the parser will just roll back to the start of the open rule, which does it parse, and then try to use single selector open rule parser, or use public holiday of rule parser. Then that's all. Final parser looks like this. We have normal rule separator, semicolon, which has a lot of white spaces after it, and then we just have many normal rules, and we need to have at least one normal rule. As you can see here, where normal rules .any. So this parser parses all the expression above. Just think about it. Looks not very complex, but very, very composable and agile. So how to evaluate this? As you can see on the previous slides, each parser returns selector. Selectors build tree, and this tree is the exact syntax tree of an expression. And this tree has implemented the iSelector interface. iSelector interface has only one method: is satisfied by current type. Is it satisfied? Yes or no? So using the parser is only a matter of one line of a string. Time domain parser .instance.parse. That's all. And the actual result is result which has generic typed time domain. or it has internal value error. So what we will have or our successful value time domain, or we will have error. Where did we fail? A few tips about these parsers. You must build them once and then use them multiple times. You can have multiple options how to parse, multiple approaches, but usually just use the most readable and supportable. It is link query syntax, as you can see on the slides. And also remember about performance. For my opinion, TDD is great here. You just need to write test on the parser at first and just tune your parser at second. So I would strongly recommend using TDD here, even if you didn't use it before. So sometimes regular expressions, it is just not enough for our everyday tasks. Yet sometimes difficult tasks lie on the road. Our choice is parser combinators. Effective and really practical technique for parsing complex, partially structured data. Agile, composable, quite simple, as we can see on the slides. That's our choice. Here we have useful links, another conference talk, and interesting posts about understanding parser combinators from website CSharp for fun and profit. So thank you for your attention. I hope it was clear, and I strongly recommend you to use parser combinators, to think about them and not only use regular expressions everywhere. Again, thank you for your attention and goodbye.
And yeah, parser combinators is our everything. I really love this talk actually. And yeah, it's really great prepared. It was really deep technical one, and that was really beneficial as for me. Yeah, and now I see questions back in our platform here. Yeah, and if you guys have questions and girls have questions about parsers or something like related to this talk, we'll have 1 or 2 minutes to wait for it. And I see Yurii on my backstage, and I'd like to invite him here now. We still don't have Saeed on the backstage, but I still hope to see him today, and I invite Yurii. Yurii, hello, Slava Ukraini.
Hello, героям слава.
Yeah, man, nice to see you, because
Yeah.
from you, the same country. How are you today?
Quite fine, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, pretty excited, really like deep stuff we have in here. Yeah, and we also have Saeed here. Hey Saeed, we're happy to see you.
Hello.
Yeah, you jumped in the last
Cannot
minute.
hear you, actually.
We can hear you well, actually, if you hear us. Yeah. So we just heard about parsers, about authentications, and multiple there, multiple here. Guys, it feels like you really understand what you're saying about. I feel like you face this in your daily, job, in your daily development, right? Yeah, and by the way, Uklon is the great service. I've been using Uklon probably before the Uber came to Ukraine. And yeah, that's a great company. I've heard about them a lot. Great stuff. Yeah. Well, how did you come up with this idea about parsers? As a talk, yeah.
Yeah, actually, it was the real problem because, as we can see on the example inside the presentation, that we have park over road, and this is very popular street inside Kiev. And inside Kiev, we have a lot of access restricted roads, so we just need to somehow deal with them. So we just do not have another solution. Yes. We could do this much simpler, maybe, with regular expressions, but I'm totally tired with unsupportable code, so in my humble opinion, parser combinators are much more supportable.
That's about maintainability. Absolutely.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, remember Pycor. Yeah, it's tough place, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and Saeed, can you hear us now? And we would love to hear from you. You need to unmute your mic in this platform. Oh, he just disappeared. No, probably the wrong button. It happens. No worries. We'll still wait for Saeed, and then we'll start from questions to you, bro. Yeah. Is there any? I believe I can show. Yeah. Is there any official documentation on these parser combinators, like to learn more and follow up, not just your talk?
Yes, of course. So you can, for example, see the Pigeons library documentation at first, and then check my second link from F# Fun and Profit, where Scott Vlashon writes his own parser combinator. And it is enough for start, but actually in the internet there's not so much examples how to write them, because the theory is great, but for this topic I just wanted to show the practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
How to write them.
Hello, guys.
Yes, and
hello.
come back again.
Finally.
He's here.
Sorry for that.
Yay. Sorry, did we interrupt you, Yurii? No,
that's all.
Yeah, maybe you could like throw in the chat some link or kind of that. Okay. If you have it would be beneficial, actually.
Just check the presentation, enough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everyone can find it over there. Sure, and speaking about these multiple authentificators, like why did you choose this topic? What is in this topic for you?
Actually, I had it before for my personal project, and I find it very, tricky. I couldn't find any good document about it, so I've had it very, difficult, and I try to make some document for it, even for the developer in the company. So yeah, why not to present that here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And first question to you. I mean, second of our Q&A. I'm not sure. Is this also able to be used in gPRC calls?
Yeah. So actually, gRPC is another HTTP calls. So it means it contains request response. So if we want to use that gRPC in the ASP.NET, again, we can use exact practice that I present. But the point is, when we are adding those gRPC clients, we need to prepare the authorization header. So during this adding the gRPC clients, we can add the credential channel, if I am not wrong. So actually, there is some Microsoft document about the steps, but yeah, we can use the same way for adding multiple authentication scheme, because as I said, this is a middleware. So every request will go to this middleware, but one more steps for the gRPC is for preparing the authorization header. If I can find the yeah, this is exactly the official document. I don't know where can I okay, join chat, connect, or maybe you can post it in the for anyone wants to see this document. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward to use, and yeah, the question is yes.
Yeah. Okay. The question is yes.
The
Thank
answer.
you. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, we hide this one and go to the next. Okay, this one is probably interesting. One is also about authentication. What do you think here? How to deal with the potential overlap or conflicts between different identity servers and authentication methods? Whoa.
If they, I don't know what exactly by the overlap, because when we are trying to use that policy, at the end, there is only one authentication scheme to check. So at the same time, there is only one. So for each request, we have one authentication scheme, and there is no chance for overlapping. And also, if maybe they mean for multiple specify multiple authentication scheme in the authorized attribute, because it's possible to have multiple authentication scheme. In that case, it will use OR. If one of those multiple return OK to the pipeline, it allows request to go on. If all of them return 401, then it break the secret of the pipeline and then send the unauthorized to the user.
So answer is don't worry.
Yeah. Cannot, there is no chance for overlapping.
Yeah. No chance. Okay. Well, yeah, the next, let's pick some interesting. Yeah, this one looks something interesting. What challenges did you face when designing your own logic for calculating restriction bases on parsers, and how did you address them? Or it was like from the flow or from the Holy Spirit or whatever, and it was really smooth, Yurii.
I wish I suppose it was like from the Holy Spirit, but no. The challenges are actually they nested from the informality of the specification. So you just cannot predict what you will see inside the tag values of the restriction tags. And that's all. Absolute unpredictability. So you just need to be agile. That's what I told. So also
maybe you remember some specific issues or like your attempts to solve problems and something, because it's always interesting.
Actually, the specific ones were this try that we didn't know that try actually exists. That we need to somehow create the abstraction for sequences, for ranges, that we need to create the abstraction for evaluation of the restrictions, because it looks quite easy in presentation how to evaluate them, but it's also not so, because, for example, you can combine this. It's actually the specific of the combining these rules, because you can always write the rule which will ask you a question: how am I evaluated? So, but we have a kind of cheat. We have a dedicated team of cartographers inside Uklon, so they can just write what we need inside this restriction text. So we just teach them, and they didn't write something not very usable for us.
Yeah. So the answer is delegate.
Kind of, yes, of course, because we are strongly communicate with cartographers, and it's also a part of our job.
Yeah, mappers. Yeah, sure. Okay, got it. Thank you very much. I will hide this question. How do I do this? I'm not sure. And oh yeah, here's how do you manage the configuration and selection of the appropriate configuration? Authentication scheme for a given user company in a multi-identity service scenario. I mean, how do you? Probably the question means how do you choose the right scheme or something?
So it depends actually. At that policy schema policy, you can implement your own logic. So in this presentation, I rely on in the JWT token, you can decode the JWT token and get the payload without any key or a signature. So, and based on this is your logic. So for example, you have multiple identity provider with different issuer or different audience. So when you decode the JWT token, and actually you can have access to the different token payload, the properties. So based on in that add policy schema policy, you can check, okay, if this audience or issuer is for the company A, you can return the schema authentication scheme for company A that you already configured in place. So you need to configure all of those identity provider for different companies, and then you implement the schema policy and then choose one of them based on the, for example, issuer or audiences. So yeah, that's so I mean, if the question is how you can choose the right authentication scheme, you need to use the schema policy, the second part of the presentation. So yeah, and actually I put the code in my GitHub, and everyone can check the code, and yeah.
That's cool. Thank you. And one question to wait, I hide this one. And one question to Yurii about the performance. Are there any performance optimization or lessons learned from this parsing and calculation process that you can share, especially when dealing with a large volume of OSM data? Yeah.
Unfortunately, not very much, because these restriction stacks, we have not so many of them, like about not more than 1,000, I would say. So, and we have task which parses them once 5 minutes, once at 5 minutes. So we just have enough time always to parse all restriction stacks for the full country, for the Ukraine. But as I said, if performance is critical for you, then you just need first to measure the parser combinators if you already chose them. But if you not, then you should really look at regular expressions, because they're always faster than parser combinators. So parser combinators are, we had benchmark, they are at 50 times, they're 50 times slower than regular expressions. So if it's crucial for you, then it's not a choice. But for us, we just trade in the performance for the maintainability of our code, because we have whole the time of the world, full 5 minutes, enough for everything.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, this solution is not for high load servers and streams. Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, thank you. And yeah, and the last question is also about authentication, about the security consideration, the safeguards put in place when handling authentication across multiple identities. So yeah, are you guys protected well in this case?
So, of course, we need to keep all of this configuration in a safe place, like the Azure Key Vault in case of the using Azure Cloud or any other secret manager, to make sure, okay, only in your production you can have access to this kind of security keys, signing keys. So yeah, that's the things that I can say. And this is the I mean, multiple identity servers. It's just only about the having multiple configuration, nothing more. So just need to take care of this, keeping this configuration in a safe place. Yeah.
So answer is use safeguards, right? and yeah, and side services for security. Yeah, guys, questions are like up, I think. Yeah, we don't have any more, and we just in the time we planned, we finished. Guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Yurii. Thank you, Saeed, for these really beneficial and interesting engineering talks. I really like this. Despite I don't do like C# and .NET, but I really understand this. Is really nice engineering stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice day. I hope people will join on your socials. Feel free to shoot your links on your LinkedIn or GitHub or whatever you want in the chat, and I will follow you. And I hope all of our team and guys, I mean audience. Thank you very much. And the last the last thing I need to mention is okay. I saying goodbye to Yurii and I saying goodbye to Saeed. Have a nice day. Yeah, I need to mention that it was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed this. And yeah, this is the end of the block one. We had 2 talks, 1 Q&A. And if you're watching us on YouTube, unfortunately, this is it. Or you can like buy tickets on, full access of this conference. I believe we will have kind of banner here to show you the promo code. I'm not sure. Yeah, thanks. Our tech team shows it. Yeah, so please feel free to get this 149 with promo code CSharp Live and continue watching this great event and recordings and do exercise on your own. Right now, I probably giving this stage for quiet for a few minutes, and then next moderator and next great talks, or maybe, I see Paul on the backstage. Paul, are you ready? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be ready in a couple of minutes, so I guess we can take a quick break, maybe like 3 to 5 minutes. Just grab yourself a sandwich or a cup of coffee or a glass of water if you don't do junk food. Yeah, and yeah, we'll see you just in a couple of minutes. So let's stretch our backs, let's have something to drink, and yeah, let's join the next session, and we will start with Nick Proud, and head of engineering at Nextbotics, and we will be talking about some really cool stuff during his talk. So
Yeah.
we'll see you just in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, but did you hear how cool topics are? Like we had in the first block. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and basically now I actually know why sometimes when Parkova is closed and I'm trying to go there and it's only one way, but Uklon somehow knows how to avoid that route, and sometimes I'm getting a little bit nervous about the extra like $5-7 to the price of the ride, because it has to go all the way around. But now I understand why.
Yeah, so these guys, you probably should use Uklon. Okay, it's not a commercial, no, it's not paid promotion. It's just because we use this service most of the day. Yeah, okay, we're taking break and come back to you, and stage is yours.
Thanks, see you everyone.